The women of Ile-Ife lined up daily for Baba Barakat's irresistible meat, but no one bothered to ask what dark secret was hiding behind the meat everyone craved for until this happened. In a village where stories floated like the wind and secrets were buried deeper than the earth's core, there lived a man named Baba Barakat. He was unlike any other man in Ile-Ife. His body was large, as round as a calabash, his face perpetually slick with sweat, and his belly hung low as though stuffed with the sins of 1,000 souls. Yet, it was not his appearance that made people whisper when he passed by. It was his shop, the meat shop that every woman in the village visited daily, often with strange eagerness. Baba Barakat's meat was no ordinary meat. It was soft, tender, and it made the women in the village hunger for more. Every bite seemed to bring them inexplicable joy, a joy they couldn't quite place or explain. And so, they returned. Day after day they lined up carrying their clay pots, waiting for their turn to purchase the meat that made their husbands sing praises of their cooking. Yet, behind his ever-smiling face, behind the fat and jovial appearance, Baba Barakat hid a secret so grotesque, so horrifying, that the very thought of it could turn a man's stomach inside out. But no one knew, no one dared to question. Baba Barakat's shop sat at the edge of the market, a small, dimly lit space that always smelled of roasting meat. Smoke billowed from the chimney at all hours of the day. The fat man worked alone, and unlike other sellers who had assistants or children to help them, Baba Barakat kept his doors shut tight. He was the only one who touched the meat, who butchered it, who served it. Strangely, there were no animals to be seen. No goats, no cows, no chickens. In fact, no one ever remembered seeing Baba Barakat bring livestock into his shop at all. "Where does Baba Barakat get his meat?" the men of the village asked, but only in whispers. The women, entranced by the taste of the meat, never questioned it. "I don't care where it comes from," they would say, their eyes gleaming with anticipation as they stood in line. "I only care how good it tastes." There was something about that meat that made them return over and over again. One day Mama Funmi, a sharp-tongued and observant woman who lived on the far side of the village, noticed something peculiar. Her neighbor, Adebisi, had gone missing. Adebisi had always been a quiet woman, known for her kind heart, but she hadn't been seen for days. Then there was another disappearance, this time a young girl, Aduni, who was known for her beauty and her laughter. Mama Funmi's suspicions grew, but still, she said nothing. Until one evening, as the sun set low and the village fell into twilight, Mama Funmi spotted something, or rather someone, that made her blood run cold. It was Baba Barakat, carrying a heavy sack over his shoulder. He moved swiftly, despite his large frame, and disappeared into his shop as the last light of day faded from the sky. The sack had been dripping. What could it be? Mama Funmi asked herself, her heart pounding against her chest. She knew something was wrong, but fear gripped her throat like a vice. The next morning, she took her clay pot, as she always did, and joined the line of women outside Baba Barakat's shop. But her eyes were sharp. She noticed every detail, the way his hands trembled slightly as he handed out the meat, the way his smile seemed to falter when their eyes met. That night, unable to sleep, Mama Funmi made up her mind. She would discover the truth. Armed with nothing but her courage and a lantern, she crept towards Baba Barakat's shop after dark. The moon hid behind thick clouds, casting the village in deep shadows. As she approached, the unmistakable smell of roasting meat filled the air, but this time it made her stomach churn. She circled around to the back of the shop, where a small, rotting door hung loosely on its hinges. Her hands shook as she pushed it open, and what she found inside made her scream, a scream that would never leave her throat. Human bones, scattered in piles, picked clean. Hair, tattered clothes, and worst of all, the familiar faces of the missing villagers, Adebisi, Aduni, and others, half buried beneath the rotting floorboards. The sack she had seen him carry, it hadn't been dripping with water, it had been dripping with blood. The meat Baba Barakat had been selling to the women, the meat they had fed their husbands and children, was not goat or cow. It was the flesh of their fellow villagers. Mama Funmi fled, her heart pounding with terror, but she knew she couldn't leave without warning the village. She ran from house to house, knocking on doors, her voice hoarse with fear. But no one believed her. Baba Barakat? Selling human flesh? Impossible! They laughed. But the laughter faded when Mama Funmi dragged them to the shop the next morning, just as the sun rose, and they saw the remains for themselves. Horror washed over the village as they realized the dark truth. Baba Barakat was gone, fled into the night, leaving nothing but the gruesome evidence of his crimes behind. The shop, which had once been a hub of life and laughter, now stood silent and empty, a grim reminder of the evil that had lurked in their midst. Years passed, and the village slowly healed, but the story of Baba Barakat, the evil meat seller, lived on. No one knew where he had gone, or if he was still out there, waiting for the next village to prey upon. But the villagers of Ile-Ife would never forget the taste of his cursed meat, and the women no longer lined up at any butcher's shop without wondering what dark secret might lie beneath the surface. The lesson of the story remained clear. Sometimes what we crave the most comes at a terrible price. And in a world where evil can hide behind a smiling face, it is better to ask the question no one dares to ask than to become the next meal. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more captivating tales like this. Goodbye.